What's up, guys? How much do looks really matter in 2026? Now, I know this topic has been done to death, but I wanted to just give my thoughts on it right now because I just got off a call with a prospective client and he kept asking me lots and lots of questions about, his looks, his fashion, his haircut, his skin, etc., etc., etc. And this is really endemic of the times we're in with in 2026 with clavicular and looks maxing and everything like this. And I know there's a lot of guys that have been brought up into this world where we're really hyper fixated on looks and improving our looks, which can be a very good thing. But how important is it really? How much does it affect your dating life? How important is it that you actually look max? Is it important that you look max? So that's everything that we're going to cover today. So let's get into it. By the way, if you don't know me, I'm Carl. I've helped over 100 successful, busy men optimize their online dating and absolutely crush it and date and find high caliber ladies. If you want any help with that, follow this channel. Now, let's talk about looks. So this guy was asking me, I'm going out, my friend is getting all this attention from women, he's getting looks. Sometimes at the club, they're even touching him. But for me, he's not getting that. And what he's saying is, for me, sometimes on a night out in the club, it goes really well and sometimes it doesn't. And, does it seems to depend on my haircut and all of these different things. So there's good and there's positive and negative aspects to this. So let's start with the positive aspects. Do looks matter? Short answer is yes. Okay, now I can definitively say this, having worked with, hundreds of guys, having worked on my own dating profile and seeing all of these guys' dating profiles. And online dating has been really amazing in that it's been eye-opening for men. Eye-opening in the sense that we now see very clearly how women respond to things. So before, there were all these kind of stories floating around like, oh, looks don't matter that much. Women just go for this and this and that. Women don't go for looks as long as you have the right behavior and all this sort of stuff. And this is false, right? I see it so clearly. I get to see it with all of my clients. Good-looking clients absolutely crush it on dating apps. They get results. It doesn't matter if they're less socially aware. It doesn't matter if they're autistic. Some of my clients are autistic. No hate for you guys, lots of love, but I'm just saying, just socially uncalibrated, and they will be smashing. They'll be getting way better results than other guys that are way more charismatic just because they have the looks. Okay, even speaking for myself, I'm like an okay looking guy, but I'm not super handsome. I'm like relatively above average, perhaps. Maybe I'm very specific woman's certain type. In fact, let's talk about that a little bit. So the average white guy here in Sweden is going to be getting way more volume than I ever will be on dating apps, because my looks and my ethnicity doesn't have that broad appeal. The broad appeal would be the tall looking white guy. He might be broadly appealing to 70-80% of women. Now there's a certain niche of women that like my looks, and because my photos are so good, I can occasionally get super attractive women off dating apps as well, but that's kind of few and far between. So sort of my volume is lower, but because my photos are so good, sometimes I can get super attractive women, more attractive women than sort of my average looking Swedish guys. So they're kind of like more stereotypically attractive in that they are, blonde and tall or whatever, but they're kind of average. And then compared to me, I'm kind of less generally attractive, but I have such amazing photos that some women, they're going to look at me and be like, holy shit, this guy's really my type and he's really high value, right? So that's the sort of trade-off that you get. So do looks matter? Yes, they absolutely matter. I see guys with good looks absolutely crushing it. I see guys with bad looks not getting any results at all. That is the truth. And what you start to realize is that when you start to see this over and over and over again, you start to see that, in fact, this is actually how women select. This is what's happening behind the scenes, not under the covers. I don't know why my mind went there. But this is what's happening behind the scenes. It's the stuff that women don't tell you. You're out of the club, you're in a social circle, and you see them. They are selecting men this way based on looks. or based this guy's ugly, so based on that. And I've seen it in social circles as well. I've seen women hang out with a guy for the first time, and just because he's so attractive, more attractive than her, she's going to ask for his number, right? And women don't usually ask for men's numbers, but in this case they do it because he's just so damn attractive. Okay, so that's that. Looks absolutely matter. They matter a lot. You should focus on maximizing your looks. In fact, women do this all the time. Women have makeup, they have their skin care, they've got their hair care, they go to the gym, they work on the booty, they stay slim. As men, we should be doing the same thing, because why not? You want to be competitive in a hyper competitive marketplace. You want things to be as easy for you as possible. So there's a lot more I could say, but I'm going to stay on topic, Carl. Okay, so that's the sort of positive side to having good looks. And this is what I told this prospective client of mine. I'm like, hey, looks are important. You're right. If you look better, dress better, you will start getting the same sort of looks that your friend there is getting in clubs. Okay. Now let's talk about sort of the shift that I asked him to make and that I want to bring here. So if you're kind of like if you're like an old OG, or you're a little bit older, I'm 33, so I'm kind of there in the middle generations. The younger generation, they're all about looks maxing, right? But back in the past, in the 2000s, 2010s, in the 90s and before, there was all of this talk about game. So, you know, this is a word that's not used very much anymore. Actually, it is used a lot, but game. Okay, more than looks maxing. What about game maxing? So, this was the idea of how can an average or even below average guy be so charismatic that women want him. Now, you're very fortunate as a man, because what women really, really desire, so yes, they go for looks, but there's something that can supersede that, and that is what women deeply desire and what they deeply crave more than looks. And what that is your masculine energy, right? Your charisma, your charm, your seduction ability. And one of the highest value things a man can have, like, there's so many things that a man can have which are valuable, but the number one thing is actually good game, right? So good game is the ultimate indicator of value and status when it comes to attracting women. So what that means is that supersedes looks. So even if your looks are average, your game can compensate for all of that. And this is something I've had to learn myself, right? Because I'm not able to crush it just because of my looks. I have to do it with my game, especially if I want to compete for higher caliber, more in-demand ladies, right? And that was something I really noticed with this prospective client that I was talking to today. I would ask him about his game, and he would keep bringing it back to his looks, right? He kept being like, oh, well, my haircut this and my face that, which again is cool, but basically you've been brainwashed, bro. You've been psyoped. You've been, well, it's a sign of the times and the culture to focus so much on looks. What I can say is there's a lot of good-looking guys that have absolutely terrible game. Like, they do not know how to speak with women at all. Now, there's a lot of guys with average game or even below average game that can still crush it just because they look good. Now, that might be you, that may not be you. A lot of my clients are super attractive as well. And what tends to happen is these guys can be just a little bit less charismatic than guys that have really had to work on the game, right? And then sometimes you meet some guys that are just incredibly good looking, incredibly, let's say they're tall and they have super amazing game and charisma as well, right? And then those guys will just outcompete everybody else. But what I want to say here is that you should, the leverage that you can get from good game is there's less limits on that than the leverage you can get from good looks. So good looks, it can get you very far, but good game can take you even further. And also good game is required for seduction and to end up in the bedroom with women, right? So you're gonna have to know how to make that a fun, safe, exciting experience for her, right? And that you do with practice, with good game, so on and so forth. So how much relative importance should we place on these different aspects? So let's talk in terms of looks. Do absolutely everything that you can to maximize your looks. Maybe, I'm not saying go out and get operations per se. You're gonna have to make your own decisions on what to do. For me personally, that's a little bit too far, depending on the type of operation. Okay, maybe in a different video we can talk more detailed about that. But getting like height increasing surgery and plastic, like for example, that sounds very painful, doesn't sound worth it to me for the risks. Plastic surgery, some guys could get that. That's not something I would personally do. But anyways, absolutely optimize your looks as far as you can. But the vast majority of your energy should be spent actually going out and learning to be charismatic, learning to speak to women. Because what you're going to do, you can't just rely on your looks. And what this guy was saying was he just wants all these girls to look at him. That is what would make him feel confident, right? If he's walking down the street and he's getting all these women, noticing him and looking at him. And number one is you shouldn't get your sense of self-confidence from that, because your looks are finite, okay? If you are dependent on these external sources of validation to get confidence, that is not going to contribute to your real core confidence, right? That's going to be such shaky ground to stand on. So you want to be getting your core confidence from your self-esteem, the amount that you love yourself, and also your skills and your competency that you've built within this realm of your life, so that you can rely on yourself, both in this realm of your life, but also you can rely on yourself in life in general, whether that be decision making, business, the way that you socialize, and the connections that you have with friends, family, women, romantic relationships. Now, here's the other thing that is really important, is that not every single girl that is amazing to approach is going to look at you. You're not always going to get indicators that she's interested in you. Some girls, they're just a bit more introverted. Some girls, they're in their own world. Some of the best women that I've ever approached in my life have looked like they were super busy, headphones in, not looking at you, etc., etc. So if you're relying on women looking at you to approach them, that is a crutch. Now, does having women look at you increase the is she more interested in you if she's looking at you? Probably yes. Actually, in fact, 100% yes. It does mean she's more interested. It probably, like 99% of the time, it means that she's interested in you approaching her and talking to you, or at least there's something in your energy or looks that makes her look over at you, right? So it's definitely a warm open in that case. It's almost an invitation for you to approach her, right? Because women, if they look at you, women don't look at you randomly, right? I came to this realization when I was a little bit younger, which is I started to get looks from women when I was around 20. And at that point, I realized before then I had never gotten looks from women my whole life. And it was a shift from off to on. I was like, holy shit, this is drastically different. At this point, I actually shaved my hair. So I think there was something within the look of me having completely shaved my head, which was a curiosity for people. It made them look at me. And this was the first time I really realized that women could, give you indicators of interest and look at you. But to my original point is this is absolutely a crutch. If you're waiting for women to look at you before you feel confident enough to go say hi to them or feel like they're open to being approached. So you're missing out on some fantastic experiences by approaching women that are not looking at you, right? So let's summarize everything a little bit here. Work on your looks as much as you can. Work on your fashion as much as you can. Work on your physique as much as you can. But this should only take around, 20, 30, 40% of your energy. Much more of your time. So also, once you have these routines in, you should be hitting to the gym, most days. This might take an hour and a half, 40 minutes, whatever. You might have your skincare routine. You might take care of your hair. You might take care of your beard, what have you. But once you have these routines locked in, it's only going to take 5-10 minutes a day Um, but in terms of learning your game, time commitment to that is going to be way higher, man. You could go out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you might spend hours, 5, 10 hours, speaking to women, right? So the time investment that you're going to be spending on actually learning your game should be way, way higher than the time commitment you spend working on your looks and your fashion. Now, fashion as well, you know, that's kind of a high cost one-time thing, or maybe something you do every 6 months or every year, update your wardrobe. You know, you spend a couple days searching for the items that you want, you buy them, and then once you have that, it's kind of like a fixed asset in your life. You have that and you can return to it, and it keeps giving you value over time, right? Now, in terms of game, again, you're gonna have to go and you're gonna have to work on that over time. Maybe work with a coach, maybe go out with some friends, and go to speak to women, learn what you're doing wrong, learn how you could be better. Now, that's something that you will have to go through. Now, let's speak of there is actually a downside to being too attractive, right? Which is not something that a lot of people understand or talk about. And what this is me as a sort of average-ish, cute-looking guy. If I say something that women don't like, let's say I text something they don't like, or I say something they don't like, they're going to give me immediate feedback. So I'm going to immediately know that they didn't like the text I sent, because they're going to stop talking to me. And what that's meant is that obviously it means that my sort of the requirements on me is a little bit higher, right? And I've had clients like this, they get really butthurt and pissed about it. It's like, oh, you know, one mistake and girls lose interest. You know, you're talking to them on Hinge or Bumble over like 1-2 weeks, and then you say one thing wrong and then all interest is lost. And yeah, you know, kind of sucks. But on the other hand, you can't let that shit drag you down, man. You have to use that as fuel to get better. And what this has meant is that for me over time, yes, it's meant that my learning curve has been steeper, but it also means that where I am now is so much sharper than it would be if I was just handsome and had everything handed to me from the very start. I don't know. I've just finished watching season 2 of Devil May Cry. You have these two brothers, Dante and Virgil. Dante just had everything effortlessly given to him. He's been intuitive his whole life. Virgil was not as skilled intuitively. And what this meant was Virgil had to work for everything that he was ever given, right? And as Virgil's mom told him once, she said, hey, you know, you can be very proud over your accomplishments, because when you achieve something, you know, it's meant something. So I'll leave you with that message. If you want more content like this, smash that subscribe button. Feel free to leave a like and a comment as well, and you'll see more of this stuff in your feed. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.